WrestleMania is only a few short weeks away, everybody. So this is my coverage on last night's episode of Raw on Screw the Script. So the first thing on this episode of Raw, to get out of the way, we had John Cena come out to cut another promo. And right away, I just felt like this was different. It felt empty almost, a little incomplete. It wasn't as complete or as wholesome of a heel promo as last week's by Cena. I think there was a stark difference between last week's and this week's. Last week's was much better, really got under people's skin. This week, it was almost kind of regurgitating the same stuff, just said differently in a different venue. So I'm a little disappointed by that. We didn't get much from Cena this week on Raw. And then Cody comes out, and it really makes me just realize that Cody is the guy that is being carried in this feud. I think Cena's really carrying most of it. It has made me realize that the most interesting thing that Cody has done in WWE since returning was before he was ever champ. I think his title run has been kind of lackluster. I'm just being honest. I haven't really been that engaged in him. He's barely had any defenses. Not to mention my complaint on him that for a while now, even dating back to when he was in AEW, a lot of his promos are rinse, wash, repeat. You know, my dad, these fans, this arena, this building, you know, this venue, like whatever it is, they all feel kind of the same, or they all have that same core, that core promo that he just kind of sprinkles with different colored sprinkles and expects us to eat it up, which the fans do. Most people do. I'm a little critical on it, obviously. So I really do think Cena's carrying this feud. I'm still excited for the match at Mania, but I'm going to be honest, I'm Team Cena. A lot of the stuff that he's been saying, I agree with. He's been mistreated over 20, 25 years. I'm one of the people that have mistreated him. I have expressed in the past that I think he's the reason why in 2008 WWE went PG. They realized they had such a megastar in him. The fans loved him, kids adored him, and Vince was like, hey, like, let's bring in the family product. Let's turn it PG. He's done so many different things for so many years to please all of us. And he's right. I mean, you can't deny it. We just want more and more and more from him. And at this point in his career, I can see why. He's like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. I'm just going to do me for me this time around. So, hey, I'm Team Cena. We'll see what happens at Mania. Next, we had that tag match. Jey Uso was going to have a surprise partner. Really wasn't that big of a surprise, unfortunately. I think WWE dropped the ball on this as well on Raw last night. It could have been Joe Hendry. It could have been some sort of debut maybe, or a returning megastar. Jimmy Uso's not a returning megastar. He's not, obviously. And you know what, this proved it, because when he returned, Glasgow, chirps, they were pretty quiet. The crowd went mild, and I just think it fell flat. The match itself was good. Aside from that, the Usos are still one of the best teams that WWE has. Now, that's not, unfortunately, saying a whole lot, because I've expressed in the past, in my past videos, that WWE has had a tag team problem for years now. I want to say dating back to like 2017 was the last time they seemed to really put emphasis and care into the tag division. But we see them pick up the win against A-Town Down Under. With their classic finisher that they hit. They didn't hit the double splash, which I was hoping to see, because I do like when they do that. But nonetheless, solid, quick, maybe about 10-minute match tonight on Raw. Towards the end, though, of that match, we saw just a bunch of, craziness happens. And again, now, later on, I'll just touch on this right after, actually. I'm kind of jumping around on Raw. Jay went to do a spear or whatever, and he slips. Now, later in the night, we see actually a pretty good promo cut by both brothers on stairs. Again, kind of a weird spot. I've expressed that it's weird to have these videos, these backstage videos and spots that you wouldn't see these millionaires or even half-millionaire professional wrestlers hanging around in a stairwell. I mean, why aren't we just doing this promo in the locker room? Or, maybe they hang out in their vehicles, their rented vehicles, their tour bus, something. Just not like, and we saw it later in the night too, Dominic Mysterio and what was it, Carlito and others were in like, it looked like a boiler room or something. Where were they? Why are they hanging out there? Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Good promo between the two brothers. And I think WWE realizes I had such a bad flop last week. I pointed this out where Jey Uso completely flopped over the top rope. And I think they're just trying to cover their tracks. They're now saying like, oh, like he's in your head. You're in your head, Jey. Get out of your head. But hey, you know what? If that's how they're going to do it in that promo that the two pulled tonight, I think they're fixing their errors at least. And then you saw probably the most exciting thing Jimmy has done in a year. He goes walking around the corner, and Gunther's right there, and he bitch slaps him so hard. Oh man, that was a slap heard around the WWE universe. Honestly, that was a great end to that little promo backstage. So it kind of reignited a little bit of a fire for that feud at Mania. I'm still lukewarm on it though. Next, we had a backstage segment with not El Grande Americano. It was Chad Gable, talking to Adam Pearce saying, oh, like, hey, I'm sick, like, fake, this bullshit fake cough, hilarious. Rey Mysterio just calling out his BS immediately, saying that he has to not wrestle tonight, but hey, give the new guy, the new luchador, Grande Americano a shot. And that's what we see later on, so I'll kind of tail into that next. Dragon Lee versus Grande Americano was match of the night for me. Great spots. It really shows how great Chad Gable is, and he deserves such a big push. He really, really does. And surprisingly, I believe he gets the win tonight, if I'm not mistaken, or last night. I believe he did win against Dragon Lee. I think I can't remember the outcome of the match actually, but he needs a main title. That suplex to the outside, he did like a overhead suplex to Dragon Lee to the outside onto the floor. That was nasty. And then he did another one. I believe it was, he was facing Dragon Lee, and he did it into the turnbuckle. Great unique offensive style by Grande Americano, which we all know is Chad Gable. But hilarious, gimmick storyline going on. That's probably going to lead into a Mania match between maybe him and Rey. This was 10 out of 10. The match was great. I love everything about Grande Americano and what Chad Gable's doing. This was my highlight of Raw tonight. The other highlight tonight for me was Lyra versus Raquel was actually a really, really good match. Raquel, moment of the match for me was when she hit a big boot when Lyra came jumping off the top rope and just sent her down flat, like hitting a wall. It was incredible. It was a short match. I didn't like how it ended. It ended in a roll-up pin. They happen too much in today's wrestling, both AEW and WWE. Outside of that, though, it was a really solid match. So the women was also announced next week. We're going to have Rhea versus Io rematch. That's obviously going to go to a draw, especially with Bianca as referee. Some mishap's going to happen where that turns into a triple threat at Mania. I think it's a mess, and honestly, all I just hope is that Rhea gets the title back at Mania because she's the star. She's the one that deserves it, so put it back on her. We saw a promo tonight cut by Cody Rhodes by CM Punk, and it was a failure, and this is what I like when I like to bring up how the PG product has such a lower ceiling to me for promos than TV-14 stuff like AEW. CM Punk, and I wrote it down here because I thought it was hilarious, like in a bad way. He called, I don't know if he was calling this to Seth Rollins or whoever it was, someone that he's feuding with that's going to be that triple threat. I think it was Rollins. He called him a diaper piss baby. I mean, funny, but in a bad way. Like, that is so, it's honestly really cringy. Like, in that moment, if it was TV 14, CM Punk very well would have just been like, "You're a son of a bitch," you know? Yeah, has it been done plenty of times and it's not as creative? Sure, but it hits harder than a diaper piss baby? Come on. This is the PG stuff that I can't stand. It's the PG stuff that we're always going to have, though, unfortunately, with WWE. I thought the move to Netflix was going to be them going to an edgier product, but diaper piss baby is not an edgier product, you know. This isn't ever going to be AEW. This is Boss Baby with WWE, it sounds like. Finally, I wanted to touch quick on the main event that could have and should have been much more than it was. Penta versus Braun Breaker started off hot, great match, heated entrances. They looked ready to go against each other, and they had some great exchanges. But then we saw the ending, where we had Dominic Mysterio show up and Carlito and interfered in the match. They were trying to get Penta to turn heel, and the match ends just in such a lackluster ending for Raw. Honestly, the match was maybe a little over 10 minutes long. All the matches lately have been short. They don't really, on Raw, they've been putting out more matches. So I think we had 5 tonight for a 2.5 hour episode, which isn't bad in terms of quantity, but the quality, like, they're all short, quick matches, it feels like. And this one fell short, obviously, because it was interference that ended the match, and the crowd hated it. The crowd went mild again, like they did a couple times tonight, and I think it was just a mistake. This really drops this Raw for me a whole point. I was ready to give it a good like 6.5, 7 out of 10, but after that finish, I'm honestly gonna say it's like a solid 6 out of 10. Just a meh Raw. And the problem with this Raw, too, is that this is their road to WrestleMania. These few episodes of Raw and SmackDown leading up to Mania should be memorable. They should have a lot of craziness going on. But this week's episode really, really, really fell flat. It fell flat hard. It fell flat into like a wet patch of non-dried cement on a sidewalk and just stood up all messy. And now you're walking away covered in cement like, oh, I made a mistake. And everybody can see that I made a mistake because I fell into wet cement. I got to go clean myself up. And hopefully next week on Raw, we get a better show. Because tonight, aside from a few good moments, as a whole, wasn't that good of a show. But I still watched it, still covered it. And that's pretty much all I have for tonight. That's pretty much all I have on this video for Raw from last night. Let me know what you think about this road to WrestleMania, these matches going on. Really, I'm only excited for Cody versus Cena. The other matches, I still need to warm up to. I do think Penta is going to get a rematch since the finish tonight was interrupted. So, hey, maybe that's a positive that came from a negative. We get a rematch at Mania. And if he does get a rematch at Mania against Braun, that'll probably be my second favorite match at WrestleMania so far. Otherwise, everything else just feels like a mess. Correct me if you think I'm wrong down below, but I really do think that WWE is struggling to go into directions with a lot of their wrestlers right now leading up to Mania. And I think this episode of Raw kind of showed that, at least in my eyes. So once again, this has been Maverick with Screw the Script. Thanks for listening, and thank you for watching.